Greetings, I'm Dike Rostant. Welcome back to the TTT News. Now, even living as a global village complete with some forex and supply chain issues, we can sometimes believe that certain things will not happen to us here in sweet TNT until we see cyber attacks attacking retailing and banking institutions very common to us. Former head of the National Operations Center and strategic security expert Garvin Heerah, he joins us to discuss our vulnerabilities, weak points, and things we should be aware of. Welcome, Commander. And even before we start off, we're not going to address tech and gizmos to mitigate cybercrime. But I want to ask you, though, what is cyber awareness and how do we detect and disrupt potential breaches?
Yeah, great. Thanks again. And at first, I would like to applaud the media house for raising this conversation, because it is something that is on the tip of our lips. It is something that is within society, but other people could be misinformed, probably running with what they're seeing on YouTube and on the internet, and not being properly educated. So cyber is the new space. We know that. Everything is being done there. So yeah, but that's only computers, right? That is only software on computers and my internet, correct? No, it's not. Once you're within that space, social media, for instance, on your phone, those smartphones, you are in a cyberspace. And therefore, cyber awareness is understanding what is taking place in that cyberspace. What are some of the dangers that lurk? What are some of the maskings? What are some of the pretensions that you're dealing with on a daily basis? Some of the legitimate, for instance, information, legitimate entrances and portals and button pressing invitations that you would get. That is cyber awareness. As we are speaking, we are on Zoom and we're doing an interview. We're not face to face. We are in a cyberspace. And therefore, it is very, very important to have that cyber awareness and all of the protocols, the do's and the don'ts that takes place in this little platform that we are in. And if we expand that into the large organizations, organizations like financial institutions, decision-making institutions, ministries, oil and gas, you name it, that is a cyberspace that dictates a certain amount of cyber awareness, and more importantly, an educational approach as to what is our new requirements to be operating in this new space.
I like the fact that you talk about an educational approach, and we'll get into that a little later in terms of investing in education and training. But you also spoke about button pressing. I remember there's a conversation that we had a little earlier, and somebody was saying the way that you would click OK to get something on our phone, to get something updated or to download an app, it can lead to problems sometimes. But with that in mind, what are some of give us an overview of potential types of attacks in terms of that cyberspace that we should be aware of, and some of the types that are a little more common or prevalent at this point in time?
Yeah, well, I mean, as I said, commendably, the Ministry of National Security took the time to detail that in the press release. And that was ransomware. And of course, we know that phishing that is also taking place with the internet. Okay, continue, information needed, and people are passing information, So you have to be aware. What has happened is that we are hyped up. We are hyped up in this cyberspace. We are hyped up in social media. We're hyped up on our computer and our smartphones. So everybody wants to be part of an activity or an event. Those are vulnerabilities that cyber criminals are looking for. Your constant behavior online, purchasing, passing vital personal information, sending issues that could be in fact a risk as it relates to you and your household and your family members, your movements, your whole security aspect of it. Those are indicators of what we call the hyped emotions inside of social media, inside of cyberspace. And those are what people are looking for. Now, if we were to rewind the tape, and I am a criminal, and my intention is to burglarize a certain area, I would do constant walkthroughs of that residential area. I would try to observe when the residents have left their place, what are their movements, a window is left open, they have no dogs, the gate doesn't have a lock. I'm looking for weak points and vulnerabilities. Take that into the whole computer world, cyberspace, and cyber awareness. We are operating our residence, which is our computers and our smartphones, and we're leaving unopened gates, open windows, no lights on, sometimes doors are left open, we leave portals, we leave entrances. We're telling the burglar, it's okay, break in, you can do what you want at my residence. That is what we're doing by the lack of having that proper cyber awareness, the education that we spoke about earlier, and understanding the vulnerabilities, the dangers, the risks, and last but not least, the consequences that can happen if something goes wrong with my system, my information, my banking details, my personal details, even my property, my intellectual property, and what is really mine, for instance, be it my work, be it research that I'm doing, things like identification cards. We saw recently where we've been seeing where people are using identity theft with bank cards and that type of stuff, skimming. All of that is cyber crime, determines and dictates a cyber awareness in order for us to have or to institute proper cyber security. So we're seeing the link, the dots are being connected.
And I really like the fact that you talk about people being enthusiastic in terms of joining fads or crazes and hyped up, as you say. And I remember looking a little cocky-eye at some of the 10-year challenges that passed, and me thinking to myself with a slightly cynical saying, people just trying to update facial recognition in terms of like, okay, well, this is what this person looks like now. And the fact that as opposed to having someone just walk around and scope, this information is being offered enthusiastically. But the thing though, Mr. Heerah, people don't really stone empty mango tree, you know. So what are some of those factors that make someone or an institution a little more susceptible to cyber attack? And this is even outside of joining those challenges or those hyped up competitions.
You see, the thing about it is being able to intrude. An intrusion alone has a emotional effect on the victim. In the old days, when a crime scene is investigated, for instance, and someone breaks into your home, and I'm going back to the old days and relating this to the whole criminal intent, and you come on the crime scene, you realize nothing was taken from the room, nothing was taken from the house, but the door is broken and it's on hinges hanging. All of the drawers have been opened and people's personal apparels spruced all over the floor, and it's dirty, and people threw things down and they messed up the whole house. But the burglars took nothing. Ah boy, they didn't take anything. There's a psychological effect on the victim that your personal space was invaded. There was an intrusion. Be it, and I'm having no reservations, for instance, your intimate apparels, that drawer was interfered with and it's thrown all over the floor and that type of stuff. You feel invaded. And sometimes what we are seeing is that intrusion and that invasion into your personal space, in that cyber space that you control, that zone. People are using the intrusion and the invasion as a threat to let you know that we can do more. I can get into a deeper part of your personal space. If not, then you can start paying me some money and wiring it to an undisclosed account, that kind of stuff. That's where the whole ransomware comes in, where people are held for ransom because their personal space have been invaded and there's an intrusion. It's simple as that. So therefore, many organizations, from a personal to a professional platform, stands very high risk on having their organizational space invaded. Could it be competitors, or could it just be hackers who are out there recognizing there is quick money here to be made? So there's a criminal intent. What we're looking at is a smarter, sharper, more technologically driven criminal.
And I really like the fact that you're able to connect those dots first and look at it from a strategic point of view. Mr. Heerah, well, this stands to reason, though, because as a strategic security expert. But we continue the conversation with you when we return. Stay with us. We are talking about cyber awareness and cyber security. We return with more. Welcome back. We are speaking with Garvin Heerah about cyber awareness, cyber security. And in the first half of the conversation, Mr. Heerah, one of the things you spoke to was education. What are some of those investments in education to avoid complacency, to avoid cyber attacks, to increase capacity and training?
Yeah, and it's good that we're opening in conversation in this angle, because the minute that we hear education, then somebody starts thinking myopically, you know what? Okay, so you're talking about the next curriculum, something to add into our school system, or maybe we have to send people on courses. It deals with that magic word, that powerful word you use at the end of the Dike, complacency. So the education is linked to our awareness to avoid complacency, and therefore consistent dialogue, discussions, workshop sessions, training for our people is paramount to ensuring that we put the right fences up. It goes beyond secure configuration. Secure configuration is also a method or barrier of prevention against cybercrime, and it speaks about, ensuring that all of the devices are restricted and you can do so much, or you have an oversight and you can shut things down and that type of stuff. Another aspect of that education is patch management. And patch management teaches us, and we could have another conversation on this because of our time limit, but patch management is very important. It's a consistent monitoring of our systems and our vulnerabilities and being able to patch any sort of weaknesses that we see. But it's a consistent, it's what you call a regular oversight. Consistency on the effectiveness of our operational aspect of technology and cyber. But the education that we're talking about is that sort of ensuring that people are aware of the protocols, the processes, and our behavior. Because we have a behavior in cyberspace in our personal time. We have a behavior with our cyber awareness when we are all alone, and it's not about work. And what happens, we see a cross-fertilization of that behavior clothed in complacency when we sit before our organization systems, sit before our workplace computers, sit with our laptops in our job spaces, but our cell phones are open right next to it, or our personal laptop and our operational laptop, right there, same desk. And there is a cross-fertilization of behavior and vulnerabilities being expressed. That education prevents that type of attitude. The main thing that needs to be considered by many organizations, we saw what happened recently with our the supermarket chain. We've heard what happened recently, some years back, I think, with Parliament. We've heard about issues within the oil and gas sector. We've heard of issues within certain ministries and other corporate systems. So therefore, the awareness and the warning and the caution that I would throw out is that these organizations now will have to start considering conducting an RTVA. Many of you who have heard me speak in the public domain will hear me advocate for that. So be it a security strategy that we're dealing with in the national security system, or be it in cyber awareness and cyberspace and cyber crime and security preventions. The RTVA is a risk, threat, and vulnerability system of my cyber capabilities. That is that sort of meticulous oversight and detection mode to see if there are anything that I have not recognized. In the days of old school security, we called it fence walking, where yes, I know I have cameras and I know I have lights, but you know what? I want my security officers to walk the fence, to see things that the system is not picking up, to test and to adjust and to ensure that we're in a good place. So fence walking in cyberspace is that meticulous RTVA looking for areas of vulnerabilities that the eyes and the system did not detect.
But looking for those areas, though, Mr. Heerah, looking for those areas, how meticulous can you be when there's that cross-fertilization? Sometimes not even saying, okay, well, I have a workstation and a personal station right there on the same desk, but you're actually working remotely. So, and possibly even using your own personal device. How does that factor into the conversation?
Yeah, and you lighted the grenade and just rolled it into the room, Dike. Correct. Because the part of RTVA that is focused on sometimes is the human factor. Not so much the systems and the plugs, just as you said, not the nitty-gritty of technology, but the human systems, the human behavior, our humanness. before the computers, in front of the laptops. We call it Zoom etiquette and all of that today, but is how we are behaving when we're dealing with cyber awareness and our computers in organizations. People are operating organizational systems next to their personal systems, or just as you said, via their personal systems, and we're working from home. Yes, I'm getting the job done, but is the organization aware of some of the vulnerabilities that are being created? And especially in organizations that are moving money, where there are transactions taking place online. Our vulnerability and complacency could be the result of an organization going flat, falling, losing money, milking it. We heard recently, if you were following international news, about that whole Bitcoin thing in Europe, where millions of dollars via Bitcoin was moved via online, what I'll call cyber or cyber crime activity. So, and that again tells you if there are vulnerabilities and complacency in our humanness and our human, that's where it starts, guys. Not so much, you could pull all of your cyber defenses up. You could do all your secure configurations and your password protections and your patch management. When it comes down to our behavior on our systems and our computers, back to the training, we can exhibit very high risk and vulnerabilities that can be to the detriment of many organizations.
And in the 1.5 minutes we have remaining, Mr. Heerah, the time flew on this conversation. You just mentioned password policy. I'd want you to tie that into the conversation that we've been having about human habits and weak points, vulnerabilities, in addition to any closing comments. Thank you.
Dike, I have an email to send to you, and we're covering some stuff on national security. So I'm happy that we're having the conversation. I'm thankful to have answered your questions. Check your email and your WhatsApp. Basic, I can just send you information. What I should really be saying is, Dike, that those questions are very sensitive. I have no problems referring to them. I'm going to password protect it, so that when you do get it, there will be a password on simple exchange of information. I'm leading to a simple exchange of information, which must be inoculated into our practice and our what is called a lifestyle. It must be part of your lifestyle. It must be part of your thinking. It must be part of your operations, because complacency has drawn us into a web that has forced society to be vulnerable and be victims of those who are recognizing you're leaving your doors opened.
And we really want to thank you for that. And it seems as that this kind of fervor that you're expressing these ideas with, it seems as though you've been doing work on them for a while and you've been living this. So we want to thank you for sharing your time with us and letting us know some of these things that we should be more aware of. Mr. Garvin Heerah, former head of National Operations Center and strategic security expert, talking about cyber awareness and cyber security. And on behalf of the entire news team, I'm Dike Rostant. This has been In Depth with me. Thank you for joining us.